Crystals grow in a granular two-dimensional system. In nature, there exist many kinds of material. Some of them are called crystals. Crystals are material which components are imperfectly arranged. Most of the crystals have a well-defined structure, and many of them are transparent. However, not all the transparent material are crystal. Some of them are glasses. Some crystals are not transparent, they are opaque. There are theories to comprehend how a crystal is formed. One of the most known theory is classical nucleation theory. It states that a crystal grow based on a small aggregate that is known as nucleus. It is formed when sudden inhomogeneities that arise in a liquid become greater than a critical size, and then by diffusion this nucleus grow to convert into a crystal. There are other non-classical nucleation theories. The two-step nucleation theory states that a nucleus it is formed in two steps. In the first step, we observe the formation of an amorphous aggregate, and then it evolves to convert it in an ordered aggregate, and then this ordered aggregate grow, but not by diffusion, but some involving some step in which particles get arrested over the nucleus in an amorphous way and then become ordered. The direct study of the process of the crystallization is very challenging because it involves many particles, and because these particles are very small and move very fast. The study of the motion of these colloidal particles, even they are bigger than molecules, is also a challenge. The most technological advances only allow the study of a single Brownian particle using interferometric technique. Thus, if we want to shed light in the mechanism of the crystallization, we need to use an alternative method. Some of them are numerical methods, but we also can use a colloidal system and granular system. In colloidal system, it is used the fact that particle configuration resembles the configuration of molecules in fluids, in glasses, and in crystal. In colloidal system, the inverse of the particles concentration plays the role of the effective temperature. Here we have an example of a bidimensional system composed of metallic beads under vibration. In this system, people have used this system in order to model the formation of crystals. We propose the use of a magnetic granular system composed of little beads of 1 millimeter in diameter under an oscillating magnetic field. In this system, particles particles move randomly because the interaction of the permanent moment with the oscillating magnetic fields. Here we have an example of the motion of a little magnet in the under the action of alternating magnetic field. We observe that we observe a sequence of short videos showing the motion at different frequencies. We observe the random motion of this little magnet because it tries to align to the alternating magnetic field. If instead of little magnet we use a little bit with a permanent dipolar moment, the motion is smoother and the particle move randomly, resembles the motion of molecules in a fluid. Because the diffusion of these little particles depends on the intensity of the magnetic field, we can control the effective temperature by means of electronic means. Thus it's easy to establish or to carry out experiments of cooling at different rates. Here we have an example of particle configuration after a rapid cooling rate. In this case, we observe that the final configuration of the particles is an amorphous, resembles the structure of a glass. The final particle configuration is obtained very fast. If we use a very small cooling rate, we obtain the formation of a crystal. Here we have a photograph sequence of the formation of a crystal. We observe the formation also of some vacancies surrounded by 6 particles. To characterize the order of the particle, we use the 6th order orientational parameter and the number of bonds or coordination number of the particles to determine the nearest neighbors of a particle. We use a triangulation process by which it is determined the nearest neighbor according to this. We determine the nearest neighbor according to this criterion, the Lanois triangulation. Based on that, we use the expression for the 6th orientational order parameter to determine phi6, and we also modify this criteria using only a coordination number and is associated orientational bond order orientational bond order parameter. Here we have the behavior of the 6th orientational order parameter as a function of the magnetic field. We can observe some plateaus in the behavior of this quantity. We also observe that the formation of the initial aggregate, that it is stable, coincides with a raise, with a sudden raise of this quantity. Between the orientational order parameter and the number of coordination, we observe that there exists there exists a linear relationship. Um, in the photograph below, we observe the final configuration of three experiments. Here we observe the diffusion, the effective diffusion of the particles. We observe that the formation of the aggregate coincides with a sudden decrease in the values of the diffusion coefficient, which state a very interesting results, because if we measure the effective diffusivity, we can establish when an aggregate is formed. Here we observe a sequence of how an amorphous aggregate becomes an ordered one. This is direct direct evidence of the formation of this is direct evidence of a two-step mechanism for nucleation theory. Here we have the 6 bone orientational order parameter, and when we only consider the particles in the aggregate, we observe sharp changes in this behavior. Talking about the previous sequence, when an amorphous aggregate becomes an ordered one, we observe that also it coincides with the sudden change in the population of the 6 particles with 5 bonds. They become two particles that have 6 neighbors. Here we have in more detail the initial veer of the nucleus. We can observe that it isn't a smooth process, but is composed by some stages. Here we observe a sequence of aggregate that shows the formation of some of the units in the crystal, some units that become ordered in the inner of the nucleus. And here we compare the growing of 3 experiments that we observe that they have a general the same behavior. As final comments, we can conclude that we have a system that is strictly bidimensional. This system is highly dissipative. However, the continuous energy input prevents particles from totally stopping. The system model glass transition and crystallization process. The system can be easily modified to model more complex process. Thank you for attention. Our contact information is here.